everything wasn't just a sign? And what if it was something that you're just meant to work through? So I think sometimes in life, I know when I got into the spiritual community, it really kind of like would encourage me to look for signs in everything and everywhere. And as a child, I was already growing up paranoid and like overly in my head, and I was already aware. I was overly aware of my environment, and I think that's what the ADHD was, to be honest. Partially was like I had to be aware of my environment, of my parents, of my siblings, of the exterior world. I had to avoid the ticking time bombs that the parents were. I had to shield myself against the discouraging comments and side eyes and isolating behavior. Like all this stuff is not meant for a child to carry. It's not even meant for an adult to carry. And so to think that you experience that as a child, and now in the spiritual community, they're telling you to look for signs everywhere, which, you know what, numbers, that can be cool, that can work out. It's not like a bad thing, but I think you have to be aware of like where you're looking for every little thing and using every little thing as a reason not to do something, right? Because if you want to, you can look for an excuse as to why, oh, it's not working out, this must be a sign I'm not meant to do this. No, it just means you have to learn patience for yourself and to give yourself time and space and a snack when you're learning, right? And so sometimes these belief systems can be taken and twisted, and sometimes it's done by us and sometimes it's done by other people. So be aware of like what your belief systems are encouraging you to do. There are some rooms you have to leave because they're not for you, but there are some places where you're meant to like work at it because it's a skill set that you need to move forward with. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. So it's also important to recognize like what are you working for and why. So like there were situations where I was working towards another person and other people, and I had to learn where I had to pull that back and redirect it at myself. And so there was a long time I didn't give up on this one person. I was like, I'm not going to give up. I was taught not to quit, but I wasn't taught when to quit and when to keep going. And it's the things that I need to keep going on that I was not encouraged to keep going on. You know, like I remember swimming lessons, like because I didn't like it or something, like they took me out of the swimming lessons. But like swimming is a pretty important skill to have, right? And just because I didn't enjoy the swimming, it was because I was really scared of the swimming and I wasn't taught how to work through that fear. And so I was just taught to run away from it. But it's interesting, like running away from things that were benefiting me, but I was also encouraged to keep up accepting bad behavior from my parents and other people. So it's really weird. Be careful on like whose message you're using, on like where you keep going and where you give up, because there's a lot of people that are pressing fear into other people based on their lack of experience and their abundance of fear, and they can't handle failure and what that would look like. And so instead they double down in their dysfunction. And I started looking at like who I'm taking advice from and how they're living their lifestyle, and if that makes sense, the advice that they're giving me. I also partner that up with my situation and the fact that I'm going to have to carry this burden if I make this choice. And so if I'm going to continue on this path, I'm going to be the one responsible. I'm the one taking the risk. And that means that I'm going to have to put myself out there, whether it ends up working out or not. And then I also have to go to the next step also and be aware of like who is not willing to back me, and then who is not there with me during that time, and how much or how little effort and support they put in, and recognize like that's where I'm matching them as well. And it's not like no harm or foul, but like if people didn't have your back from the beginning, that's cool. But like I'm currently giving what I'm receiving from other people, and I'm less emotionally involved in what they're not willing to give. And I'm also watching how some people overly give, but it's for the wrong reasons, and it's not actually full support. It's more like the illusion of support, and it's that kind of support comes in very fast and leaves just as quick. And it's kind of like it's kind of like a squirrel energy. Like some people will come across your page and be really excited to find you, and they'll be like, you're the best, and then like they're gone at the next door to a new account person, whatever source of attention that they're looking for and validation. And so like if you're not completely giving to their delusion, like they need to keep going to find a different answer, because they're not really willing to go internally and look at what the actual problem is and how they're actually the one responsible for creating that change, and how they might be wrong. There's a time when I was so into certain belief systems like that you couldn't have changed my mind. I don't think you could have changed my mind. So I had to experience life. And so there's also people who don't understand how kids need to trial and error it in order to find their own way and their own ideas. And some parents don't like that idea, and it could be because they don't want to see their kids struggle, they don't want to see their kids unhappy. But when you recognize, and you've done it yourself, you can recognize how beneficial it is for kids to try it out for themselves while you're still there as a safety and a support and security from the sidelines. You're there when the time comes. So be aware of that. All these things apply when trying to create change and find the truth of a situation. Take care.